Welcome to another session of Impact HD 2.0 New Functions and Features. The topic of today's session is loan servicing. The loan servicing functionality allows you to track a loan from cradle to grave. In other words, from inception to charge off and beyond as you move charged off accounts from servicing to collections. Impact is able to maintain every attribute of a loan, such as the contract date, original amounts, down payments, interest rates, interest amounts, total payments, next due dates, and many more, as we will see shortly. Impact also has functionality to reset a loan, re-amortize a loan, extend the loan periods, unwind or revert a loan, charge off a loan, and even set up recurring payments, all of these in one click. Additionally, Impact gives you the ability to update loan attributes and recalculate other terms of the loan in one click, and via a robust messaging system, notify you if any of the terms does not align with the rest. Before we can dive into the workcard to show you all of this functionality, we need to review some of the provisioning items that must be in place before you can use the loan servicing offering. And these are: under System Parameters, we need to define, first, account types that use loan servicing, and the transaction codes associated with charge-off adjustments on and charge-off adjustments off. Also, transaction codes associated with the unwind or revert function, and transaction codes associated with the prior payments and new account entry. We will see this function shortly as well. Second, under payment arrangements, we need to define the logic and terms of each payment plan that will be a loan servicing payment arrangement. Finally, under the CSV importer offering, we need to have at least one new business template to import the terms of a new loan servicing account. Let us begin with System Parameters. To access System Parameters, click on Impact, Tables, Company Tables, System Parameters. Under System Parameters, let us navigate to the C/O tab or Charge-Off tab. Here we have the option to define the transaction codes that will be automatically executed for each financial bucket when a loan is charged off, both when we need to make adjustments off, in other words, when executing the charge-off of the loan, and also when we do adjustments on, that is, when the loan is now going to be prepared for collections. As you can see here, each financial bucket can have its own corresponding transaction code. Additionally, at the time of charge-off, you can execute up to 4 user-definable result codes. Similarly, when you do an adjustment on a charge-off, you also have the option of applying a dedicated transaction code for each one of those financial buckets, and again, up to 4 user-definable result codes can be executed when doing the adjustment on. Also, under the Unwind Transaction Codes Adjustments Off section, we can define the transaction codes that we will use for each financial bucket when a loan is reverted. Finally, if a loan that needs to be reverted carries payment prior to the referral date, the following transaction codes will affect the principal and interest buckets when the loan is reverted. We will shortly see an example of this type of loan. Once we have defined the Charge-Off tab, now we need to navigate to the Account Types tab. We'll click on Account Type, and this is where we can define our loan servicing account type. To define a loan servicing account type, simply create a label, select which is the date type that you're going to use from one of these options: last charge date, date of loss, the charged off date, or the discharge date. Next, label your demographics A0 through G0 and make sure that in the work card type you select the loan servicing option. This is what will drive the loan servicing work card type. Now, this is all the provisioning that needs to take place at the system parameters level. Let us now navigate to the payment arrangements and create a payment arrangement for loan servicing. For that, let us navigate to the main menu, click on Impact, Tables, Collection Tables, Payment Arrangement Rule Table. I have already created a loan servicing monthly payment arrangement rule. Let us double click and open the details of the rule. The only difference between setting up a regular payment arrangement from a loan servicing payment arrangement is in the last field. The amortize arranged amount then accrue interest flag must be set to no. In other words, only payment arrangements with this flag set to no will be displayed as loan servicing payment arrangements. The other setting that pertains to loan servicing is the send when LS delinquent flag. This flag refers to sending reminders when the loan servicing account is delinquent. Also, you have the option of adding an additional demographic to the default A0 demographic when receiving a reminder letter. In this case, the A0 demographic will receive letter 450 5 days prior to the payment due. In other words, selecting an additional demographic using this pull down will initialize that demographic to receive this letter this many days prior to the payment's due date. Finally, also pertaining to loan servicing, you can select a user-definable result code to be automatically executed when an account is past due for the first time using this drop-down, for the second time using the second drop-down, and so on. Now that we have defined a loan servicing payment arrangement, and again, what drives that payment arrangement to be a loan servicing is the fact that this flag is set to no. Now we can move on to the CSV importer and review what needs to be in place before we can import accounts using that offering. For that, let us navigate to the main menu. From the main menu, we'll click on Impact, New Data Processing, CSV Importer. This is the CSV Importer maintenance. I have already prepared a template that will import loan servicing accounts. Creating a CSV Importer template is outside of the scope of this session. However, I want to point out that in the CSV Importer, we have a full range of fields available to map a loan servicing account. To find these fields, simply use the filter and enter LS to view those fields that begin with these two characters. This will display the list of fields available to map. So we'll type LS, and here we see the contract date, the original loan amount. Next one is the payment arrangement code. So this field is the actual code for the payment arrangement you wish to link the specific loan servicing account to. This will not be typically included in a file. If that's the case, you can add a column to your file and map that column to this field. Once you import the file, you will see that every account has been associated with the desired payment arrangement code. Next is the payment amount, first payment due date, final payment date, final payment amount, total payments, total term interest, total number of payments made, and many, many more. As you can see, you even have delinquency dates that you can map to. Once you have your file mapped, the next step is to import it. I'm going to go ahead and import a file that I have prepared and show you some of the options that you have after you have imported the file. To import a file, I'm going to exit, click on loan servicing, select my template, and now click on the import button and point to my file. I'm going to copy and paste my path and click OK to import the file. Now that the file has processed, I'm going to navigate to the main menu and look for my new batch. And here's the 3 records that I had in my file. Let us open the details of the first one. Now notice that automatically the system has selected our loan servicing account type, and that's based on the client setup. Now let us navigate to the loan servicing tab, where the details of the contract and all of the loan servicing attributes have been populated. As you can see, I have a contract date, a contract principal, the down payment has been mapped, the contract interest, the interest rate, the total number of payments for this loan, the number of booked payments and the number of payments made, the number of payments that remain, the original payment amount, the date the payments are due, and notice we have the option for up to 2 different dates in a month in the event that we're dealing with a bi-weekly or bi-monthly payment, the number of days past due, the first payment due date, the final payment due date, the final payment amount, the total payments collected, next due date, and if there is any partial payments. Now notice that we also have the ability to map the number of times an account has been past due: 30, 60, 90 days, and 120 days past due. You saw those fields just a few minutes ago. They were labeled PD, 30, 60, 90, and 120. We also have the ability to map a routing number and an account number if that came in the file, the check position, and the credit card expiration date. If this is a credit card, we simply map the credit card number to the account number. If we're dealing with a checking account, then we need a routing number and the account number, and optionally the check on number position. So here we have also the option for an interest method, a contract type, and a discount amount. We can also map payments made prior to the referral date. I just made reference to this function when we were looking at system parameters. Under the Unwind Transaction Codes Adjustments Off section, you remember that we can define the transaction codes that we will use for each financial bucket when a loan is reverted. We can also define the transaction codes that we can automatically execute if we revert a loan and we need to revert the payments made prior to referral. Also notice from the very top we have a pull down that points to the loan servicing monthly payment arrangement code. That is because I had a column in my file that I added for the PPR code. In other words, this is where the PPR code is mapped, and you can link an account to a very specific payment arrangement code. So this is all of the provisioning that we need to have in place before we can load loan servicing accounts. As a recap, under System Parameters, under the Account Type tab, we first need to define our loan servicing account type, making sure that we select the loan servicing work card. Next, under the Charge-Off tab under System Parameters, we need to define the transaction codes associated with the charge-off adjustments on and charge-off adjustments off the transaction codes associated with the unwind function, and the transaction codes associated with the payment prior to referral in new account entry when we unwind a loan servicing account. Next, we need to have at least one payment arrangement where we define the logic and the terms of each payment plan that will be a loan servicing payment arrangement. As you remember, in order for a payment arrangement to display as a loan servicing payment arrangement type in this drop-down, the amortize arranged amount then accrue interest flag must be set to no. Finally, we need to have a CSV importer template in place where we can define the record layout of the file that we wish to import, leveraging a great variety of loan servicing field types that we have available for mapping. Now that we have all of the provisioning in place, let us navigate to a work card where we can see what's different about an account that is a loan servicing account versus a regular account. So here we are in the new Impact HD 2.0 work card, and we're looking at a loan servicing account. And we can immediately tell this is a loan servicing account because we have our loan servicing panel right here on the upper right corner. Under the Account Details button, we can see that this has been defined as a loan servicing account under the Account Type dropdown. If we change this dropdown to Open Accounts and Save, we immediately see the difference between the two work cards. Notice that the loan servicing panel is no longer visible. So let's restore this account as a loan servicing account. So let us review the loan servicing panel and navigate through every one of the options that we see here. First, the loan servicing panel is a carousel type of panel. As you can see here, we have buttons that we can click to the left, to the right, or select a specific button. We are in screen 1 or loan information screen. If we wanted to navigate to the next one, we can hover over it with the mouse, and we know that that is the loan fees. We can click on that button, or we can use the navigation buttons to the left or to the right. This is called the carousel. Each click of the mouse displays a different type of data set. As we can see here, we're displaying the original loan information. On the next one, we have the recorded charge-off information. And in the next one, the collateral fees. So let us navigate back to the very first screen and go through in detail. First, we have the contract date. Then we have the original amount of the contract. And then we have the booked amount. The booked amount is the original amount minus any down payments. As we see here, we have a $350 down payment that reduces the booked amount by that amount. Next, we have the contract interest and booked interest, the contract interest rate and the current interest rate, the total number of payments and the booked number of payments. Here's the total number of payments on the contract and when the next payment is due. Notice that this information is also displayed here front and center. So that is the contract module. Under the terms module, we're displaying the installment amount and what days of the month that installment is due, in this case on the 10th of the month. Under the payments module, we have the number of payments made and the remaining number of payments. This being a 36-term contract, 15 payments have been made, 21 remain. This information is also found under the loan history module. Below the Payments module, we have the Conclusion module. In the Conclusion module, we have the first payment due date, the final payment date, and the final payment amount. In most instances, the final payment amount differs from the regularly scheduled payment amount. Under the Financial Rules module, we have the payment arrangement code that this account is associated with. Notice that we can select the pull down and change the code of the payment arrangement that's currently associated with this loan. Next, we have the Delinquency Buckets module. It displays the days past due by range and the amount past due, as well as the time the account has been past due by each bucket, 30, 60, 90, and 120 plus days. Now, changing the loan servicing to a weekly loan servicing payment arrangement, we see that the days now range from 0 to 14, 15 to 29, 30 to 44, 45 to 59, and 60 and plus. So let us restore our monthly payment arrangement. Now, to the right, we have our amortization panel. The amortization panel displays the amortization schedule and any payments that may have been made against the loan. These are all payments made prior to the referral of the account. We can scroll down and see every single payment made on this loan. The system also displays how much money was paid in this period. This period begins on 10/10. If any partial payments had been made against this period, they would display here. Let us now review each one of these options at the bottom of the modules. First, the recurring payment. Clicking on the recurring payment exposes the options to define a recurring payment using either a credit card or an ACH. So here we have the option of setting a routing number, an account number, a credit card expiration date, and a check number position. You will remember these options from the new business entry screen. Now, setting up a routing number, an account number, a credit card expiration date, and a check number position will set up this account in a recurring payment. Let us enter some routing number and an account number. And select the check number position and click Save. Notice now that the information has been saved, the recurring payment button turns green. This indicates that we have information to process either a check or a credit card on this loan. The next button is the Unwind button. Clicking on this option will revert the terms of the loan. You will remember from the review of the system parameters that any transaction codes associated with the unwind function or the revert function will be automatically executed when the unwind button is clicked on. If the loan is reverted, the two result codes that are user definable will be also executed at this point. Next is the charge off button. If we needed to charge off this loan, we simply click on the charge off button. The system will take over and execute the transaction codes for each financial bucket as well as the result codes defined in system parameters. Next is the extend one period. If we needed to re-age the account for one period, we click on the Extend One Period button. Clicking on the Extend One Period, we'll get this confirmation message. Once we confirm, then we get a confirmation that the loan has been extended one period. Once we clear that message, notice that we have a 000000 date paid on the October 10th period. And if we scroll down, we'll see that the system added one extra payment at the bottom of the loan. In other words, it re-aged the account one period by forgiving that current period and adding that one payment at the bottom of the loan. Under the contract module, we find two options. The option to reset a loan and the option to re-amortize a loan. If we click on reset the loan, notice that the system automatically picks up the current amount due. In this case, $3,978.51. This is the current payoff of the account as of today. At this point, we can make modifications of any of the other terms. There is logic in the system that will correct you if any of the attributes that you update is out of line with the remaining attributes. Once you make a change, you can click on re-amortize to see the results. For instance, if we added a down payment for $978.51, notice the system made automatic adjustments to the interest and the total number of payments. At this point, we can also change the interest rate and click re-amortize. The system recalculates the contract interest. Once we have reset the terms of the loan, at that point we can click Save the Loan to commit the changes. Now that we've showed you how to reset a loan and how to re-amortize after any changes, let's go ahead and charge off this loan and show you some of the other windows that we have in this carousel. For that, let us reload this account and refresh the terms of this loan to the original terms. Now that we have refreshed the account, let us navigate to each one of the different windows in the carousel. For that, let us click on the arrow right. The first panel is the loan servicing loan fees. Any fees charged against this loan will be displayed here and categorized accordingly. Late fees, NSF fees, or service fees. We'll click on the next navigation button to the right, and here we have all of the terms of the original loan. Regardless of how many modifications you make to the loan, how many times re-amortize a loan, we always maintain the original terms of the loan. And finally, the next button is the recorded charge off. As you can see here, since this account has not been charged off, the data is not populated. So let us go ahead and charge off this account using the charge off button in the main screen. Let us navigate to that screen, and here we are under the loan information screen, and we're going to go ahead and charge off this loan. We get the confirmation message to proceed with this charge off, and if we click on yes, the loan charge off is completed. Once the account is charged off, the fields on this window get automatically populated with the terms of the charge off. And under the generic module, we have the charge off date, which is today's date, the days past due, the status at charge off, and any remain discount at charge off, and is 0 for our case. Under the dues module, we have the principal due, the interest due, the other due, miscellaneous 1 and miscellaneous 2, and the total due. Under the paid module, we have the principal paid, interest paid, other paid, both miscellaneous, and the payments made at charge off. Now, even if we change the account type, we would have access to the recorded charge off information. So let us go ahead and change the account type and see how we recover this information in spite of the fact that we would lose the panel with the loan servicing information. So let's go ahead and go to the account details, click on the account type and select a different account type. We'll select Open Accounts and save the details. And now the panel is no longer visible. Let us go ahead and reload this account. And notice that in the upper right corner, we have a recorded charge-off button. If we click on that button, we still have access to the details of the charge-off for each of the modules that we saw earlier, the generic, the dues, and the paid. And with this, we conclude today's session on loan servicing. Thank you very much for your attention, and we look forward to seeing you in the next session.